Breakthrough Real Estate Investing Podcast, episode 95.
Hello and welcome again to the Breakthrough Real Estate Investing Podcast. We put this show together to inspire you and help you break through to the life that you want to live through the power of real estate investing. My name is Rob Brake. Here with me again is Sandy McKay.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, Sandy, what's going on?
Busy, having fun and enjoying the summer and getting ready for a big fall. Lots of action and lots of stuff happening in real estate. So lots of stuff going on. You?
Yeah, there's a couple things with us too. We've got one project wrapping up. So excited to get tenants into there. The second suite in Oshawa. And just last week, I picked up a student rental in Peterborough.
I saw that somewhere, actually, Peterborough. That's exciting. We've had some people talking about Peterborough on here in at least this year, right? So I guess that's a hot market.
It's a good market right now. It has been for many of my clients. That's where I'm making the drive up all the time. So I did a video and put it up on YouTube just to walk through what, the pros, mostly the pros, but I guess there are a couple of cons with the video, but walk through the new property and just explained why we bought it. So that's up on YouTube. If you want to go over to YouTube and just type in Rob Brake, it's probably going to be the first one there, unless I put up some new ones in the meantime before the show comes out.
What is it? Student rental? How many students?
It's going to be six.
I think I saw the purchase price. High 300s? Around there?
370.
370, yeah.
Yeah, so we bought it for 370. The city allows you to register these, as they call them, small dwelling units. So the funny thing is, as long as they're all students, you can do this. If you start putting other people in, then they count it as a rooming house, right? But so long as you got students, you go through the registration process with them. It's all the standard stuff. The fire department comes in, city comes in to make sure that you've done everything you're supposed to do to get ready. So as far as like ceiling height, light requirements, egress, escape window, and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then they allow you to run it essentially like a rooming house where you can have locks on the doors, you can have separate leases. And this one was really interesting because we pretty much didn't need to do anything at all to it. We got to pop a window in to one room, and that's basically it. And then
those students that are gonna where school they go to? They're Fleming, is that where they go, or what's the school?
It could be either or. What we've found is it doesn't really matter as long as you're close to transit. I've got some clients in the south end of Peterborough, which is much closer to Fleming, and they filled their place with Trent students. They were the only ones that showed up because I was there the day that they were showing it. A big mob of students out on the front lawn. And turns out they're all from Trent. So it's interesting up there. And then when my wife went there many years ago, not that many years ago, but many years ago, she lived in the north end and went to Fleming in the southwest end. So it seems like really the most important thing is the proximity to transportation, right? And amenities. They want a few amenities. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
But yeah, go check out that video. We're super excited, and we'll keep you posted on progress as well.
And of course, everyone should go over to our website, breakthroughrapodcast.ca, pick up our free report, The Ultimate Strategy for Building Wealth Through Real Estate, and you'll get on our list as well when you do that. You hear about all the property tours, events coming up, all sorts of stuff. So jump on there so you don't miss out. You also get an update on every show once it gets released. So jump on over to our website, breakthroughrapodcast.ca, and make sure you're staying up to date.
And we do really want to thank everybody who leaves reviews on iTunes. That is where the majority of people listen to the podcast from. So we really do appreciate the people that go over and leave us their feedback, good or bad. Let us know what you think. And Sandy and I make slight improvements every once in a while. So we like to hear about that stuff. Yeah. So another thing too is, aside from iTunes, I have somebody on Facebook that just contacted us the other day through our page, our Breakthrough investment page on Facebook, and it's Christy Gabriel asking, is the podcast available on other outlets? So I'm not sure whether she just means other outlets aside from the website itself, because I know there's not a big amount of people, but about 50, 60 people usually in the first like couple weeks will download straight from the site, from the website, breakthroughreipodcast.ca. So aside from that, though, Christy, you can listen to us on Stitcher. You can listen to us on iTunes. I mean, I was on Android for a long time, and I used to get mine through something called Podcast Addict. And there's a bunch of different podcasts. Um, there's a bunch of different ways to listen to podcasts through Android, but that's just the one I use. There's all kinds of different choices out there. So yeah, lots of different ways to listen to this show. Just find some kind of a podcast player and type into the search Breakthrough Real Estate Investing Podcast, and we should come up.
If you're not on somewhere, just email us or search us out on Facebook. Reach out. We'll find a way to get on whatever platform you're listening on or wanting to listen on.
I think I did a funny thing with this the other day too. But you can just if you're listening on Amazon or Google Speaker or whatever, you can just say, for example, at my house, I just say, "Hey Google, play Breakthrough Real Estate Investing Podcast," and it starts the most recent one. Simple as that.
Life's getting easy. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Anything else?
No. Well, I mean, what do you got going on? Anything?
Lots of stuff. Lots of stuff. I'm going to Russia next week. Excited about that.
That sounds like fun.
Business stuff. That's what's happening personally. We're going to be over there for a couple of weeks. My wife Kate's from there. We're going to St. Petersburg. Spend 10 or 11 days over there, and yeah, it's going to be cool. Going to be not. I think it's going to be a bit colder than here, but not crazy cold like Russia sometimes obviously can be up there. But should be fun. We're going to go over there and see. I don't know. I don't really know what to expect. To be honest, I've never been there. It'll be a bit different, that's for sure.
Yeah. Sounds like fun. Is that a business write-off?
I actually think we might be able to find a way to do that. I don't know. I do know we're going to actually probably be recording one of our next episodes from there, I believe. So that's going to be interesting. Hopefully that works out well. And maybe I'll have a bit different backdrop besides these pineapples or whatever these are behind me.
Well, looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'll explore some real estate. I'll do at least an hour of real estate exploring there and maybe come back with some wisdom on that or something that cool that they do over in Russia.
Hey, that would be interesting.
Yeah. So should we get to our guest?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it. I'm excited.
All right. So we've got our guest standing by here, Dylan Suitor. I'll read a quick bio here and then we'll say hello and get into it. Dylan, according to Dylan's mother, he's always been known as the who, what, where, when, and why kid. And that didn't stop in his younger years, always looking to self-discover, self-improve, and live a lifelong learning lifestyle. Dylan continues to invest in himself year over year. For the past 12 years, Dylan has been an investor and recently started taking a massive action through all of the learning. He decided no better time than now. And since October 3rd, 2018, so not even a year ago, Dylan's massive action has turned into 215 doors. So 215 doors all in the last year. Is that right? Or is that a few from before?
That's basically what I've done since the October 3rd was our first closing on one of my partnerships that has turned into a pretty awesome adventure for us. And then most recently, just this past week on my first building. So the building closes September 26th. So I'll be able to say that I've actually purchased and closed 215 if I don't buy anything more before October 5th or October 3rd. So that doesn't include my personal portfolio, which is another 6 stores, 5 properties and 6 stores in my personal name. That's just all in corporate name from the past 12 months.
Awesome. So, well, welcome to the show, first of all, and that's I think that's a powerful intro. I think people are gonna want to stick around to learn how you've been able to do that. That's a pretty big number, and we're excited to learn more. Anything else to add to that bio there, or is that pretty much cover it for now?
No, that's pretty good. I'm just kind of surprised that when you talked about what you're up to. Obviously, you're very humble and don't speak about everything you're doing, but we're doing something together that we'll touch on later on as well. We'll get to that in a bit.
We will. Good. Yeah, good thing you mentioned that. Stick around to learn about that. We've got an awesome event coming up where you're going to learn from, well, Dylan and I are pretty involved in it and some others, and we're going to share a bit about that more a bit into this interview here and tell you all about it. It's going to be a massive event happening around later on, couple months from now, actually.
Yeah, that's exciting. And thanks for being here. Yeah, you got to pry info out of Sandy. He doesn't volunteer it.
I found that out the hard way working with him pretty closely over the last year and a half. So
Yeah.
he just kind of keeps it quiet until you ask him about it.
Okay, Dylan, tell us briefly how you got started in real estate investing. And I guess from there all the way up to what it looks like today. You've touched on it. Now let's expand.
Yeah, so I guess I actually read in a newspaper article just a couple of weeks ago about how houses are so unaffordable, and I hear you can't afford, first-time home buyers are struggling. And then there was an article that came out that was about three couples that got together. They pooled their money together, they pulled their down payment together, and they all purchased a house together and lived in that house. They lived in the house for 3 years. Then after that 3 years, they refinanced it, kept it as a rental property, and had enough equity that they could pull out that all three of them could go and buy 5% down. And I would say that I kind of got started in a similar manner. I was 18 years old, and my mom didn't want to continue to pay for my rent at university. So she said, "Well, it's either your call on trying to come up with the capital to pay for rent, or we'll work with you. We'll co-sign on a home, and you can run your first rental property." And so I did. I ran my first rental property for 4 years at university, and I actually kept it a couple of years afterwards as a rental property afterwards. And so I bought that property at 18 as a student rental, not really understanding a whole lot about what real estate investing was all about, just knowing my parents had a couple of properties. My mom's in mortgages, and she's always been a little bit into real estate investing, into kind of creating wealth through obviously mortgage pay down and appreciation. So yeah, that was kind of the start. And from there, I kind of took it from there. So I was the one who managed that property. I collected rent from my roommates. I ended up living for free. You'll see throughout the whole interview we have here that failure is always, there's always hiccups and always failures that I've learned from. And one of the first years I figured, hey, you know what, prime rib's good. I like that. So I spent some rent checks on prime rib and steak dinners and bottle service, and it was a fun time in university, but obviously you pay for it. So I remember having to take out a loan because my mom said, "Hey, this is on you. You made your bed and I sleep in it." So I took out a loan to pay off those debts and to continue working. And I started a painting company at a young age. And that painting company, basically, I had to work as hard as I had to pay off my debt. So that was kind of thrown into the fire myself, and I totally owned it. And so what I did after I sold that property is I ended up making out, I think it was about 5 or 6 years later after I owned it. I did the renovations on trying to clean it up at the end and worked with the realtor, made 60, 65 grand, somewhere in that range. And so I ended up purchasing a new build. One of my painting clients was a realtor, and talked about new build opportunities and the fact that the market's going up and you can buy now and close in 2-3 years. And so I had about 50% of what I needed to put down. And I said, sure, let's do it. So I signed off on it, and I think it was 45 or 50,000 total. And I put 15,000 down initially. And I have had a couple of $5,000 checks for the rest of the deposit I needed. And so each month I had to make sure I had enough money in my account to fill that check. So that kind of taught me another lesson on, make sure you have the money before you spend it. And if you don't, make sure you have the plan in place. So I ended up going out and I was knocking on doors. I was making phone calls. I was on site painting if I had to, working 12, 14 hours a day, whatever I really had to make sure that I was able to close on that property. And a few years later, I closed on it. So my first rental that I personally purchased outside of that student rental was, I think, 2016 I closed. And that was a condo in Stoney Creek, a new build condo in Stoney Creek that I still own today. And then after it closed, I was like, hey, this is kind of cool. There's been some appreciation. Nothing had sold. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with the fact that you should be living in a home for a year. That's kind of what the government says, or there's HST penalties and stuff like that. So I lived in it for a year and got my HST back. Owned it for a year. And in that year, I was like, oh, well, I'm going to buy another one. So I bought another condo and did the same thing over again. And then I bought my first flip all over the course of probably 12 months. It initially started out as a conversation with a realtor saying, hey, let's look at St. Catharines at a 3 or 350, and we'll put 50,000 in and make 50 grand or whatever it may be. And then we ended up buying in Burlington at 605,000. So it was a bit of a different purchase, and it was a flip that I don't want to say went wrong, but again, another area of learning through fail forward. We purchased it at 605. We thought we'd sell it for 850. We thought we'd put 80 grand in. Well, a year and a bit went by. We kind of took our time more so. We were living in the property, and then the spring of 2017 hit. So we were supposed to be listed March 2017, and we were a couple months behind. So we didn't get it listed until May 2017. And as I'm sure you guys are well aware of, the Halton and Hamilton regions didn't do too well in April and May of 2017. So we saw about a 20% decrease on the number that we thought we would be getting. And we would have still gotten, I think 970 was the appraised value we got. We wanted to get 1.2 at that point. The market was appreciating in 2016, 2017 at a ridiculous rate. So we kind of got that in our head and decided, no, we're not going to. So instead of cutting our losses, we decided to try another strategy. So we ended up refinancing the home at 970 and Airbnb'd it. And even to this day, it's used as a short-term rental. So it's been another opportunity for me to learn another real estate investing market without really planning on it. So as you can tell, everything I've just kind of set up till now is buy a student rental without really knowing it, buy a new build without really knowing it, buy another new build without really knowing it, or having the money for it, buy a flip without knowing the market, without knowing where I'm going, and then finding a way to make it work. And I think that's the big thing, is that when you're successful in real estate or when you're successful in anything, it's when bumps in the road always happen, they always come along, and it's how you deal with them that really defines you. So we were able to make really good use of it. And instead of regular rents that would have made us lose money each month, we were averaging in 2018, we averaged 6,300 a month, and regular rent would be probably about 3,000. And right now we have it rented on an 8-month lease, short term, for 5,500 furnished. So that lease is up in February of 2020, as long as their house is ready. They had a fire. And if it isn't, then we're going to extend a couple of months, but then we'll be relisting at the property probably in the 1.1 range, and that'll be coming next spring. So it's been a really good experience, really fun along the way. And throughout that, that's when I started educating and really pouring into myself. And I did a program called the Flipping Formula and spent 72,000, I think it was. That same year I was doing the flip and went through that program. Probably wasn't the best for me, although again, it's one of those things where I kind of jumped in first and then figured it out afterwards. And it was a really good experience. It introduced me to RAIN, which introduced me to the Right Club, which introduced me to these podcasts, which introduced me to all kinds of education that I've just been a lifelong learner and always curious about it. So really finding the passion in real estate has been what's driven me to get to where I am today. And over the last 12 months, as you can see, I've been educating since really 2016. And I spent a ton of money on education and on courses, which you don't have to do. Although to take your education to the next level, I would recommend, once you have the base, the foundation, then you can kind of start spending on larger programs. There's a number of more inexpensive programs. I mean, just day events, the Right Club. I know Sandy, you do some. I think Rob, you do some up there as well. There's some out in London. There's all kinds of day-long events that are $25 or $50 or free because they're hosted by a realtor. You can learn a lot of really valuable information along with podcasts and stuff like this. So that's kind of a past and a history of how I got to the last year. And I'm sure we'll dig deeper into the last 12 months over the next few questions.
Well, okay. Well, let's jump into it right now then. Let's talk about the last year. So at the point you started to Airbnb that bigger place, and then you decided to incorporate and jump to the next level. Is that what happened?
Well, yeah. So I started Airbnb that place and realized how valuable it was. And so I took the condo that I was currently living in. I said, hey, if I can, instead of getting 1,800 or 1,700 a month in regular rent, why don't I Airbnb it? So I started Airbnb that as well. And I was averaging 2,700. Obviously condo regulations have since changed and they've cracked down a little bit, although it wasn't built into my initial agreement. So I'm kind of grandfathered. They don't make it fun, although I was getting 50% higher rent in the condo. So I'm like, why wouldn't I keep doing it? So additional cash flow, which is nice, doesn't change your appreciation or mortgage pay down unless you decide to. But we started doing the condo. And then through my painting company, I actually met who's now my business partner on a job that his mom knew my family from back when, wanted me to do the painting, and they had a fire. So we did some drywall repair and painting. And we just talked about some government grants. And something that I've noticed in business is that there's always someone out there to help in some capacity, whether it's through having a conversation or a podcast or a grant. And researching those grants is really important. So I stumbled across a grant that could help my painting company. And then while I was painting this property, I just started sharing that. I said, oh, you know what? This is a program that I looked into. I was eligible, I qualified, and it was a training program that has helped my business grow. And I shared that information with Robbie, and he took that, and then that was it. I kind of painted his mom's house, and that was back in 2015, 2016, maybe 2017. It was a while back anyways. And so then it was kind of left there, and I just kind of gave him the information, and then I bumped into a little while later, and he was doing what he was talking about, buy, renovate, refinance. And when he first told me about it, I laughed at it. I said, oh, banks won't let you do that. There's no way they're going to do it. They'll max you out at 3 or 5 houses. And my mom, coming from a Scotiabank background, that was all I knew. And without knowing more, I didn't believe him. So I kind of had the conversation. I'm like, yeah, you know what, prove it, and I'll believe you later. And then I started obviously educating through the Legacy program and Keyspire and a number of different programs. Rockstar's good at it as well. And then I started realizing, wait a second, if more than just Robbie is doing this, maybe this is a strategy I should inquire about. I should learn more about. So I started learning more about it. And then I reached back out and I said, Robbie, I want to kind of sit down and pick your brain on what you've been doing and kind of go a little deeper into it. So we met up for coffee and he was super open and basically shared everything. And I remember the time he mentioned, he said his exact words were, I knew when you came into my house and you told me about this government grant and you told me all about how it could help my business and it had no benefit to you whatsoever. I knew at that point in time I wanted to be in business with you. And that really opened my eyes to kind of giving back, and not just giving money, but also giving your time or your knowledge. And it didn't cost me anything to have that conversation with him. And he's been a catalyst to the growth and the success that I've had over the last 12 to 15 months. So that conversation was really what kind of sparked giving back and being intentional about the conversations I have and being grateful and sharing gratitude. And we basically sat down at that point in time and used some of the systems and models that I've learned through Keller Williams and made a plan on what we were going to do. And at that point in time, we kind of made a plan to do 4 properties a year, starting in January. 4 properties a month starting in January. And through the other education I had, I found a broker that was willing to do private lending. And I heard your podcast. It was the podcast that I'm currently on, actually. Always talked about joint ventures and buy, renovate, refinance. And I kind of learned the joint venture mold. And I was like, well, if I can find someone who's going to give me the money at a rate or a percentage rate, then I take full ownership. So I basically reached out and I started going down the road of private lending and basically high interest lending that allowed me to keep 100% of the property at completion. So instead of having to give 50% and not having payments, I had payments throughout the renovation process, but it was at a higher interest rate. And I ran the numbers and I kind of looked at it and it's okay, well, year 1, year 2, I'm winning as a joint venture. And then I looked at it and I said, okay, well, what about year 5, year 10, year 20? If I own 100%, a lifetime value of doing this on my own and paying high interest is much higher than if I only own half of it. So I think that was where I started exploring and I started saying, okay, well, this obviously isn't going to be easier. Otherwise, everyone would be doing it. So success is simple, not easy. And so it was a matter of just finding out the simple steps it's going to take to do so. And through, as I mentioned before, it was actually the Right Club that I was a part of. And I did a couple of the full day seminar workshops that an hour and a half long. And I started building some relationships with the mortgage broker that kind of saw kind of a future with me and some success and a history of learning through trial and error and believed in me. So we sat down and scheduled a time to meet and drew out a plan and okay, well, what are we going to do? How is Robbie and I going to buy 4 properties a month? And how are we going to get to our goal of 48? And then we started taking action. And our first closing was October 3rd. It's actually really funny because that property didn't end up closing. And I haven't encountered this in any of my real estate experience or my investing experience otherwise. And the reason it didn't close was because the seller was a little bit older. He's an elderly man and he was sick. And so he sold the property, but he was fully aware he was selling it. And then come close to the closing date, we got a message from his lawyer saying that he wasn't going to close and he was pulling out. And we were a little bit taken back. We said, wait a second, you can't do that. We had private lending lined up. And that is definitely one risk you run with private lending is that when you have a lender lined up and they put the money in the account already and it's with the lawyers, so there's a lender fee and there's a broker fee that's sunk cost. It doesn't matter whether the property closes or not. You have costs involved. Lawyers have been putting in work. You're paying the lending side. You're paying the lender's lawyers fees as well. So we ended up having 15 or 20,000 in costs and we didn't end up getting to close. So that was another kind of hurdle we had to overcome. We have since closed that property. It is now complete and being refinanced. And the man that actually had to pull out, it was his daughter or his niece or someone that kind of kiboshed it initially. And then he ended up passing 3 months later. So he didn't pass in the house, but he was living in the house up until he went to the hospital. And so we had to go through probate and we closed on the property. I think it was February this year, maybe March this year. And it was one of our best projects yet. It was a duplex already. And so we just kind of did some cleanup. We were in and out of the project in 6 or 7 weeks. And I think we lifted it 140 grand or something. And our total reno was 40. So it was a pretty good lift. We were actually thinking of converting it to a triplex, but the time it would have taken to make it into a triplex would have been a few months longer. And it made more sense just to keep it as a duplex. And it's our highest rental income property. It's one of the larger duplexes that we own now. So, yeah.
Okay, great. So you've delved in a little bit about the private money thing. Do you wanna dig in a little bit? Tell us about. Okay, so I guess through the process, you decided, hey man, I'm going to look into private money. I can keep 100% of the property for myself. Where do you go from there?
So I guess you have to see what your risk is and what you're willing to be okay with. Because when we're looking at private money, I mean, we're actually borrowing 100% of the purchase price. Now, a lot of it was from RSP mortgages, which are maxed out. I think it's legally only 80% or 85% that you're allowed to do. So we were getting a top up, but you have to have someone that believes and trusts you. The other thing you can look at is after repair value lending. So what we have now is a number of investors that will basically look at the finished product and look at our history of being able to do the purchase, the renovation, refinance. We're buying these houses at say 200,000. We put 150,000 in, with 350 in, and we refinance at 550. So they'll lend on 75% of that after repair value in draws. So they may say, okay, well, we'll close on the property, we'll do the closing costs, and then we'll give you enough to get your demo and your framing done. We can come inspect it. You can provide us photos, whatever that may be. And then we do plumbing, electrical roughing, then they give us another draw. And then we do kind of our inspection for insulation and vapor barrier and boarding, another draw, and then finishes. And then at that point in time, we go back to the bank and do the refinance. So there is definitely a trust factor that has to be involved. And you do have to either have a track record or have someone that believes in you. You can start off with family members. I mean, your friends and family are definitely someone who, if they've seen success, they've seen you attending these classes, they want to get involved. Maybe they're like, hey, you know what, I'm willing to lend and I want 8% or 9% or 10% of my money. Also with the private mortgages, they're usually interest only. So what we're doing is we actually pay our mortgages, our interest only, and then the renovation portion is deferred and paid at the end. So we're paying 8% on our mortgages. There's a lender fee and a broker fee, and then we're paying anywhere between 13 and 17% on the hard money loan, which is the actual renovation budget. So there's different lenders do different ways. I'm signing off on paperwork for a property closing August 31st. Just got the commitment from the lender, and he has basically said that he'll do a 12% deferred interest across the entire amount. So he's providing us with the purchase and the renovation at one rate for the whole amount. Although there's other lenders that say, oh no, we want to lend on the mortgage as one position, and then we'll do a promissory note loan for the second. Again, it really comes down to the lender, and you have to make sure you're well versed in it. And that's why I say lifelong learner, because I'm always learning new ways and new lenders and different people that may be open at some point in time to having that conversation. And some people have a higher risk tolerance and some have a lower risk tolerance. And you need to determine what you're doing. If it's an 80% loan to value or 75% loan to value, I'm not going to pay the same rate as if they're doing 125% of the purchase price. So yeah, you can go to a bank, and I mean, I think I heard of a rate at 299 yesterday, which was kind of awesome. And that's great if you're buying a primary residence, you're moving into it, or you're doing one property at a time. Although you can't scale your portfolio by constantly going to the bank and saying, hey, I want 3% money, because what's in it for the bank? They don't want to see you buy, renovate, refinance. They don't really come back to them 4 months later and say, hey, I bought this for 200, it's for 500. They don't really care what you put into it. It's more risk, and the bank's very risk adverse, and that's why they're so successful in what they do. And private lenders are willing to take a higher risk for a higher return. So does that kind of touch on enough of it, or do you want me to go a little deeper in the private lending?
No, that's good. Now, you decided that you were going to scale up, right? So you decided at one point you're going to start a corporation and just take off and buy these 4 properties a month. Where are you finding them all?
So recently we've had a few from wholesalers. I think we've closed on 10 properties now this year, 7 to 10, somewhere in that range from wholesalers. One was an agent that came to me and basically told me, hey man, I'm in a bind and we're listed at X amount, and we need a firm deal by the end of the week, or we're going to not be able to close on the other property. We're willing to do 100 grand off the price. And so we ran our numbers. We're like, okay, if the numbers work, then I'm happy to do that. And most of them have been on MLS, to be honest. I don't represent myself on any of my deals. I personally have a fiduciary duty to my clients, and so I don't like to compete. I actually have in the past property where my business partner put an offer in on a home, and I put an offer in on a home for a client, and the client got it. And so my business partner wasn't overly happy about that. But it's my fiduciary duty as an agent, it comes first. And when I'm working with a client, I want to make sure that I give them first right of refusal. So a lot of the properties, the areas that I sell in, I'm not purchasing in. So I do actually have agents that work for us, one full-time down in St. Catharines, and then a couple other full-time agents that put offers in on pretty much everything. So we're always buying, we're always looking, and market price and list price is not always the same. And what you're having to pay is never the list price. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but I don't know any time that I've actually paid the exact advertised price. Usually it's $5,000, $10,000 under, sometimes $100,000 under, all the way to 5, 10, 50 grand over. So I think that's a big misconception, is that off-market deals aren't the only way to be successful. You can always make a good deal if you have an agent that knows their market and they know how to negotiate. I always have conversations with agents, selling agents, and say, hey, what's most important for your clients? And I've had people call me and say, we need this closed in 3 weeks, so we need a firm offer today, and we're willing to sacrifice price a little. Well, in that case, if we can close in 3 weeks and we can get a good deal on it, we have a win-win situation for everyone. So I think realistically, the majority of our properties come off MLS. We do have a couple of wholesalers that bring us some deals. We have a couple of like neighbors now, because we have so many properties, that'll come over and say, hey, I saw what you've done. I'm interested in selling. Do you want to buy the home? I'll save on commission. And we look at it and say, oh, if you're willing to take this, then great. As an agent, I'd go in and I'd say, okay, well, on the market, that may be worth $200,000. I'm willing to pay $150 right now, and I'll throw my commission in. And I'll just say I can close in 3 weeks if that's what you're looking for. And then it's entirely up to the seller. I'm not lying. I'm not hiding anything. I'm telling them, hey, market value, if I was to list this on MLS, I'd list it at 200 grand, and I'm willing to buy it off you for 150 or 160. And we can close in 3 weeks and we can satisfy your needs. And if you're finding a solution for a seller, then there's all kinds of different ways to find property.
And wholesaling, why don't we just quickly say what that looks like, just for maybe people that don't know.
So wholesaling is usually done where there's.
How do you meet the wholesalers too? Where have you met them?
Honestly, all meetup groups. So all the wholesalers I meet are at meetup groups, because that's where they're going to meet their buyers. I mean, you go to a real estate investing meetup group, and the majority of people there want to take action, and they want to buy property. So wholesalers, it's their best form of marketing to go to those. And so we've met all of our wholesalers at different meetup groups. Basically what they'll do is they'll do different advertising. I mean, I have one wholesaler that spends like $30,000 a month on advertising. He does pay-per-click, he does flyer drops, he does door knocking. He has a full staff behind him. Like he's turned into it's his full-time job. Like it's a career. And so they're always coming up with off-market deals or deals that maybe even on market that they may get under contract at a lower rate or whatever it may be. Sometimes if there's a markup, a wholesale deal is ultimately just a property that's purchased under market value for whatever the reason is, and then resold to someone else. So instead of double closing, there's also a double close. A wholesale is, hey, I've now got this property under contract. Sandy, you want to buy this off me? I paid $150. Are you willing to pay me $180? It's worth $220 on the market. And then as an investor, I look at that and say, well, if it's worth $220 on the market and I can get it for $180, I'm still getting a deal. I don't really care if the wholesaler makes 50 grand, 100 grand. I don't care what he makes if I'm still getting a deal. So you have to analyze it and make sure that you're still getting a number that you like. And that's the important part, is to make sure that you're within the ballpark of what you think is reasonable, still run your own comps. But at the end of the day, what I pay is what matters to me, and what the seller earns is what should matter to the seller as well. So what's in his pocket, and if he's able to pay off his debts or whatever's needed, the reason he's selling is met.
So awesome. So it's challenges. We've talked about a bunch, I think, already maybe, but what are any other challenges that come to mind? They've been able to really, how did you overcome them actually?
Well, yeah, I guess I can be pretty vulnerable here and explain some of the areas, because I mean, this isn't it's not a smooth ride. I mean, going through the private lending, you can have lenders pull out the day of closing. You can have lenders say, oh, whatever the reason may be. I mean, we've had some RSP mortgages that are held up at Olympia Trust or Canadian Western Trust and Canadian Western Bank, I think it is. And the lender decides that, oh, the money's tied up because it was supposed to be released to TD and it's a 4-day hold. And you're like, wait a second, this is supposed to close today. Why wasn't it done ahead of time? So we've had a number of delays. We've had to delay, and that's why it's really important to have a good power team, because our mortgage broker is always on the phone pushing that through, or doing the top up where needed, or advancing funds in certain ways to make sure it's possible. And then our lawyer, again, he's been lights out. I mean, some of the stuff he's been able to negotiate for us is really impressive. I want to get him on my team as a realtor now. But yeah, there's all kinds of issues that you can bump into. I travel quite a bit. So when I'm traveling and we have a closing, Sometimes a lender won't allow me to sign it without being in front of my lawyer. So I'll have to do it on FaceTime. I'll sign it in front of him on FaceTime. He can record it, proof that I've actually walked through the contract with him if they ever came back on us. And then I have to mail the original copies back. Lawsuits are something else that can come up. We're encountering a couple right now that are just like little legal battles. There's one guy that's trying to claim ownership in 4 of our properties I met him once in my life. And it's like, how does that make any sense? So it can definitely put a hold on some different things. And there's definitely hiccups that come through, obviously, any real estate investing. You're in a world that can be high upside and there's also lots of risk. So you have to look at it and analyze it and say, okay, well, am I comfortable if this property gets held up? Or am I comfortable if I can't close on this property? And we've had to just deal with it and overcome those different areas.
Have you had any challenges as far as permitted use or renovation challenges or anything like that as well?
Absolutely. We actually had a story where our engineer went to the board or down to the city to apply, and he was doing revision after revision after revision. And he was supposed to be at a committee of adjustments, and we found out that he told us that the committee of adjustments was canceled, or that he wasn't allowed in, or it was full. And when we went back to the city afterwards, the city told us that he came in and was screaming at them on the phone, and that he was basically demanding stuff that was unacceptable. So, I mean, you have to work with the people that you're around, and you have to be able to trust them, and you have to be able to kind of make sure that you're helping everyone. I mean, if we walk into the city and we start screaming at them, they're just going to say no. I mean, they have the power to do that. So we do a lot of committee of adjustments. That's that one property I told you about where the elderly man passed away. We had delays. That property in particular, we were going to make it in triplex, and it was only zoned duplex. But when we purchased it, our inspector that went to look at it said, oh yeah, we can do a triplex, no problem. So we could have gone for a minor variance and gone to the committee of adjustments and changed the zoning on it so we were allowed. And they said, yeah, we'll most likely pass that, but you still have to go through the process. So we had to determine at that point in time, were we going to spend the 4 months or whatever it may be holding the property, not doing anything to the property while we go through that process of the city, or are we just going to make it into a duplex? And so we just made it into a duplex, and we're finishing the basement as just a storage room. So we're putting a bunch of our stuff in the basement, and it has the proper ceiling height. Like, it can be legalized, but zoning doesn't allow it. So I know right now, like just 2 days ago, it was the 19th of August, Hamilton passed a new zoning regulation where downtown, they increased some of their no parking requirement zones. So now there's houses that would have required parking that officially don't. So zoning, it changes, and cities are pretty slow moving on that kind of stuff, but you also have to realize that they have a lot on their plate as well. I mean, do I wish they moved faster? Absolutely. But there's a ton of people that walk in and say, I want this tomorrow, I want that tomorrow. And they're dealing with all kinds of problems as well. So you just got to look at it and see, how can I make this a scenario that's a win for everyone? And how can I make it easier? How can I make my life easier on them? And sometimes that's having a second engineer review your drawings, or have someone else look at it ahead of time so that your drawings get approved every time. I work with an architect in Hamilton, and very rarely do I run into problems with him, because whenever I recommend him, he's been to the city so many times, he knows what they're going to accept, what they're not going to accept. And so usually he submits the application, we get a permit 2 weeks later. So I guess familiarizing yourself with it and working with a good power team is really, really important. My team and I just actually ran a legal suite conversion course and street tour a few weeks ago on a Saturday. And we had the architect come in, we had a mortgage broker come in, we had about 85 people register, we filled the bus, we went out and looked at a bunch of properties. We have a couple of people putting offers in on those properties as well. And it was because of the fact that we knew our stuff. Like, they were asking questions that I thought was basic, but now that we're in this and we do it every day, we kind of underestimate and undervalue some of the knowledge that we have. So always learning and always educating and always helping others, answering questions. I always tell my clients, like, this isn't a transaction. When you buy a property off me, I want you to call me if you have a leaky basement, or if your plumbing fails, or you want some landscaping done. Or, I mean, I've even heard one of the agents I learned this from actually is, if you want to go on date night and you need a babysitter and you can't find one, call me, we'll find you one. So at the end of the day, we're a full value add service, and that's what we try and do with our clients and with our own business. So knowing your information is really important, and always educating. And that's where I think that spending the money and the time that I did for a number of years on all those different training programs was super important.
Yeah, that's another thing too that that people don't understand, especially clients, if they think that they're bothering by giving a call, is quite frankly, well, we might be able to help them out, and obviously don't mind, because at the same time you are expanding your education just by talking to them and the problems that they're having. So
100%. I mean, one of the easiest ways to learn is to teach. right? If you're going to teach something, you better know it. And if you don't know it, you better ask. And that's something I always admit to my clients as well. It happens a lot less now than it did when I started, but I said, hey, I'll always be 100% honest with you. I'll always be open. And if I don't know the answer to something, I know someone that does. And I'll find that person out and I'll make sure that I learn that, educate myself on it, and update myself on
it. So you have a lot of properties on the go, a lot of renovations, all that sort of stuff. A lot of lawyers, financial stuff to deal with. What type of systems do you have to deal with all these moving parts?
So, I mean, I talked about owning 100% of something, and then the reason I have a partner that I have is neither of us are the money partner. We do private investing, but we looked at it and said, okay, well, if I'm going to go and do all the management and I need to implement the systems, then it's going to take me years to get where I'm at. And so I sought out Robbie, and he has it all. He has a full-time property manager. He has a full-time recruiter. He has a full-time cleaning company. He has 68 contractors last time I checked. It's a system that's really well organized, and it's a great operating machine. And I mean, he doesn't even see the properties a lot of times. We have our architect or engineer goes through and does the walkthrough for home inspections. So I have to give a lot of credit to Robbie and the fact that he's the one who manages the day-to-day of the operation side of things. I'm just the one who kind of sits in the lawyer's office 5 out of 7 days a week and signs paperwork and goes and negotiates different deals with the lenders and finds different lenders and finds different money and moves some money around and does payments and stuff like that. But it's about the people you have in your world. And a lot of that is learning experience. So could our systems be better? Absolutely. They could always be better. But I think that you guys should have my partner Robbie on the podcast once. He can talk about all the systems for the whole duration of your hour if you'd like.
Yeah, it all sounds like fun though. Yeah. I'll tell you that it's a heck of a lot better than, I don't know, laying bricks or like sitting in a cubicle.
Painting.
Yeah, painting. There you go. Yeah. Painting is one of those jobs I absolutely hate.
And that's what made me a good salesman with painting is I'm like, I will never paint. I picked up a paintbrush like 4 hours my first year. And people would say, I really don't want to spend money on this, but I don't want to do it myself. And I'm like, great. Well, what is your opportunity cost? Because painting is relatively inexpensive in relation to other trades, electrical and plumbing and whatnot. So, I mean, that's something you can save money on if you want, or you can hire it out. And what's your time worth, right? I heard something the other day that time is not money, but money can buy back time. So that was an interesting little takeaway I got from our conference last week that I was at, is you can always buy more time with more money. So what is your hourly wage? What is your hourly rate? And figure out what that is. And if you can replace that with a cheaper rate, then you're technically buying back your time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So now you've expanded, you've had a lot of success with this. Where do you see things going in the future?
Well, 100 doors was a big thing. I mean, one of the things I got into when I got into real estate, I heard of someone that had 180 doors and retired at 37 or 38 years old. And it was kind of like, how is that possible? That was only a couple of years ago. And looking at it now, I was like, oh, with 180 doors, you got to be a multi-billionaire. Like, then you got to realize, like, okay, well, there's an accumulation period. There's a time where you're actually like putting the work in. You're financing a bunch of it. Cash flow comes, but that comes when it's finished. So a lot of what we're doing right now, we're still negative cash flow. So we're still injecting additional capital through private lending. So I guess the future really is we had a plan in place. We wanted 100 million in holdings by the end of 2019. Through my coach Stefan Arnio, he's kind of most of his coaching clients. He says, well, let's double your numbers. Let's make you stretch your thinking and go a little bigger. And it's been the opposite with me, where he's like, well, let's keep you in check and not let you burn out. So it's been really awesome having conversations with him on a weekly basis. And so he said, well, you know what? Sometimes you have to take your goal and stretch over two years. So we've now taken that $100 million goal and we're stretching it over 2 years. So by the end of 2020, that's the goal. And we've revisited it and we sit together. My partner and I sit together and we talk about our strategy and upcoming and what we're going to do. And then again, just recently I bought that building. So that's super exciting as well. And I had that plan with Robbie, although that building is actually with another partner it's been awesome to work with as well. David, he found that property and we're able to run with it. So I was able to find a private lender that basically said, yeah, we'll throw the cash in, and it's a high rate, but it's also something that he's got deep pockets and able to grow with. So I think my personal next goal would be to get to the 100 million, and then beyond that would be the 1,000 doors. And it's not the value, it's not the dollar value, and it's not the number of doors. It really comes back to my why statement. And my why statement that I found about a year and a half ago after I read Simon Sinek's Find Your Why was to inspire others through success to think bigger and live your endless potential. And I'll repeat that. So to inspire others through success, to think bigger and live beyond this potential. And the reason I bring that up is because quite often I've been told that my life revolves around money and earning money and whatnot. And as I mentioned earlier, giving is something that has really become close to me recently. And the reason I want to inspire others through success is because you can do anything you want to do if you put your mind to it. If you work on your mindset, you make a plan, you take the proper steps, you seek out help, you can really accomplish anything you want. And so it's extremely humbling and really, really rewarding for me when I have a conversation and someone calls me out of the blue and says, "Hey man, I want to know exactly what you're doing. Like, tell me all your secrets." And I'm sitting there, I'm like, why? I want your secrets, right? Like it's these people that are asking me questions. I'm like, I need to look up to you. I listen to you on a podcast and I want to know more. And it's about collaboration and sharing. So it's not necessarily about this is what I have, or this is the money I make, or this is the doors I have. It's more about, I mean, we're gentrifying cities. Like we're taking some cities and we're taking areas that maybe the average house price is $200,000, and because we're improving that, we're taking really crappy areas and we're making them nicer areas, and we're gentrifying those neighborhoods. We had one guy come up to us and said, "We didn't like what you're doing in our neighborhood when you first started doing it, and thanks to you over the last 3 years," this is Robbie, but thanks to you over the last 3 years, we're actually able to sell our home and move to Florida 2 years early. And to hear stories like that, like we're impacting whole neighborhoods, and this is a retired couple. They have no other income. Their house is everything. So when you're taking a home that might have been worth 150 or 200,000 and you're renovating it, so now all the other houses around it are worth 50 or 100 or $200,000 more. That's really giving back to the neighborhood. That's giving back to the communities, and it's affecting people in ways that you don't see, you don't know. And a really awesome line that I heard, I think it was last year on a podcast, was always be the best version of yourself, and always kind of demonstrate success and be positive and be grateful, because you never know when someone hears something that you say that you may not think is a big deal, but they do. And there's a number of people that I can shout out to on the fact that I've heard something. And I had a conversation last week, and one of my managers in a little group that I'm a part of has said a couple of things to me that she didn't realize she said, but they're things that have driven my passion and my drive towards success in different areas. So always be careful with what you're saying, and make sure you're always positive, and be the best version of yourself. And so that's where my why statement really comes into play, and inspiring others through success. And it's not impossible, but it's rare where someone follows someone who's poor and says, "I want to be like them." Usually it's someone who's doing well. They have a lot of doors, they have a lot of money, they have a lot of income. They're giving back in some way, shape, or form, and says, "I want to follow that guy's footsteps. I want to be around that person. You are the average of the 5 people you spend your time around. Do you want to be increasing those 5, or do you want to be decreasing those 5, whether it be in net worth, or it be in gratitude, or it be in culture, or it be in donations, whatever that may be, find that area and surround yourself around the people that you want to be a part of and you want to be in business with."
Love it. Okay, so let's get right into it. Let's dig into this event that you guys are putting on here. Tell us about that.
All right. So Sandy and I met up in, actually, you know what? I'll go back a little further. So August last year, I took over a role in Keller Williams, kind of a little offset company we have called Keller Williams Young Professionals. And it's for realtors under 40 in our Keller Williams community. And it's an opportunity for us to really create what we want. We were recently compared to a 2-year-old toddler. And so it's a company that's really small. It's in its infancy. It's just a group that gets together, and we focus on education, we focus on social, we focus on culture, and charity and giving back. And so Sandy and I sat down in December when he came on as VP of our little chapter in Golden Horseshoe. We started out as 5 members, and we're now the largest KWIP chapter in the world, which is kind of exciting. And so we sat down in December and we put together what we call a 135, or a GPS. And a GPS basically has your 1 goal, and then your 3 priorities to get there, and then your 5 strategies around each priority in order to get that. And so we looked at our 1 goal at the time was initially a number of members, and then we're like, well, that's not really a true goal. What our goal is to be the top chapter. We want to be the #1 chapter. We want to win chapter of the year. And what does that look like? And so we broke that down into the different priorities we had to do. And so one of those priorities was giving back. And so we wanted to focus on education, we wanted to focus on social, and we wanted to focus on charity. And so we sat down, we started brainstorming, and this was really the think bigger and live about endless potential comes in, because Sandy and I had a conversation and we said, at 100 guys who care, where 100 people get together once a month and put $100 into the kitty, and you get $10,000, and then you donate $10,000 to a charity, and you just get together, you have a bar, you have a couple of drinks, you socialize, and it's a networking event. We're like, that would be a cool experience. And then we're like, well, we can do more and we can be bigger. And so we started kind of stretching each other, thinking, well, okay, is $10,000 enough for us to donate this year? And like, well, we can make a bigger impact. So how about 25? So we started drawing out what a $25,000 donation would look like. And about, I don't know, 15 minutes later, the think bigger part of me kind of looked at Sandy and said, I accidentally put an extra zero at the end of that 25,000. And he said, and he kind of looked at me and said, so we're raising 250,000 now. And there was no hesitation. It was a, you know what, we're going to do this. And so we said, okay, well, we got to think bigger now. We got to really put this on a larger scale. What we started doing is we worked backwards and said, okay, well, we want to donate $250,000 to charity. How are we going to raise $250,000 over the course of the year? And it really came down to a large charity event, a large gala. And so we kind of mimicked a large like evening charity event around one of our local board charity events and galas. They raised 80 or 90 grand at just a little gala. And there was a couple hundred people there. And she said, okay, well, why don't we do a dinner? And then through our company, Keller Williams, we have something called Mega Camp. And it started out as 30 people in a room, and now it's 8,000 or so. And ultimately what it is it's a couple of panels, and it's information, and it's speakers, and it's talking about mindset, and it's talking about growth, and it's talking about rookie panels or it's investing panels, whatever that may be. And we said, okay, well, how are we going to draw people in? And so one of the mindset shifts for me is I read a book called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. And if you haven't read it, I would highly recommend it. It's like 120 pages. You can read it in a day if you really want to. And Hal talks about how he's fought through adversity, been near death multiple times, fought cancer multiple times, and he's overcome it. And he really brings it back to the savers: silence, affirmation, visualization, reading, exercise, and scribing or journaling. And so we're like, okay, that's a mindset thing that really can amp people up and get them moving. So November 11th and 12th, we have Hal Elrod as our headline speaker. And then we have a number of panels in between talking about different real estate techniques. We have Mike McCann, who's one of the top real estate agents, or he was the top real estate agent in Philadelphia for decades. He's coming to speak to us as well. Bob Lucido, who's transacted over 2,000, I think it was almost 2,500 transactions last year, has a large expansion team in our industry. One of the largest teams, I would say, in all of real estate. He's speaking to us as well. Kelly Manateas, who's a coach and a trainer. She's speaking on emotional intelligence. We have John Montgomery, who is the host of Amazing Race Canada, and he was a gold medalist for skeleton in Vancouver, and commonly known for walking down the streets of Vancouver with a big pitcher of beer and kind of cheersing everyone after he won a gold medal. So it's a little fun story there as well. And then obviously we have other speakers as well. It's like the list goes on, and we'd be here a half an hour if I talked about the whole lineup we have. But it's a really awesome opportunity for real estate investors, real estate agents, mortgage brokers, lawyers, everyone in the real estate world and industry. We're really focusing it on mindset. We're focusing on how to get there, like the growth aspect of things. And it's fun to get into numbers, and it's fun to get into, okay, well, how did you get 215 doors? Honestly, the only thing I can really tell you is mindset. It came down to mindset. It came down to the belief in the fact that I could do it myself, and that I could find the mentors to do it with. And that's where we're trying to fill the stage, or we are filling the stage with mentors that are going to stretch your thinking and that are going to get you to a position where you are going to be happy and you are going to be where you want. And if that is a house a year, great. If that's 5 houses in 20 years, great. If you just want to replace your active income with passive income so you can retire at 40, let's do that too. Let's put together a plan on how you can do that. And so this is an area and a space that over a 2-day period, we're going to surround you with like-minded individuals that are going to have actually experienced it. We're going to give you time to network. We're going to give you some of the tools that we've used, some of the sponsors that we've had, some of our vendors, our lawyers, our mortgage brokers that have helped us get where we are. They're going to be available to talk as well. We're looking forward to it. And it's going to be people coming from all over North America, at least right now. I know that we have a group coming in from Florida. We have a group coming in from New Jersey. We have a group coming in from Texas, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Michigan. I mean, the list goes on. So it's a really awesome event. And I think you guys can share stuff in the notes or whatever. So we can share a link for the information. And there's a couple of VIP tickets as well, where you can actually meet some of the speakers. So we have Hal staying afterwards to speak at our VIP event and doing a meet and greet. He's doing a book signing. So we're actually going to do a book signing for his new book, Miracle Equation, where he actually talks about the steps required to create lasting miracles on your own. And so what we're going to do for your listeners actually is, Sandy and I had a conversation ahead of time, and we decided that since you guys are loyal listeners and leave all kinds of awesome reviews for these guys and keep following the Breakthrough podcast, we're actually going to do $50 off on our event November 11th and 12th with a discount code Breakthrough.
Breakthrough. Yeah, if you use that, you can go on over our website, realestategrowthsummit.ca. You click register. That'll take you to the Eventbrite page where you can register and sign up. Or you can go right through Eventbrite and search Real Estate Growth Summit. You'll find it that way too. And just enter the promo code Breakthrough. and you'll see the pricing change. It'll be $50 off. So we'll do that. We'll do that ongoing, let's say, for now, and then hopefully, if you're out there and you're listening, you foresee some value in that. The event is in Toronto. We should probably mention where the event is, just right near the airport, and November 11th and 12th. Full 2 days, tons of value for a really, really good economical price in our opinion.
You know what? I was going to say, let's light a fire under their butts, Sandy. Let's give them 2 weeks. You know, you don't want to just say ongoing. We gotta make them take some action here. If they want that money off,
let's cut it off at September 15th.
Yeah, this podcast is about taking massive action. So you guys should be pausing the podcast right now and go into that promo code. For
$150 is a dinner, you know?
Yeah. So let's cut it off. $50 off if you register before September 15th. The coupon code will disappear after that. So jump in on there now. Even if you don't know if you can make it, just buy a ticket. It's going to be a very, very economical price, and you can always give it away to some of your power team members or something like that.
It goes to charity too. I mean, we have KW Kids Can and Ronald McDonald House, amongst a couple other charities that we're donating to. We're actually not taking a dollar from this. So all profit is going to be donated amongst a couple of charities, and we're going to divvy it up and pass it out. So we're doing this entirely out of the goodness of our hearts, and we want to kind of create awareness and add as much value as we can. So yeah, I would also say jump in on the dinner. I think the dinner is $75, and it's a charity dinner. And we have actually John Montgomery is a professional trained live auctioneer, so we're gonna have a live auction there as well. Have a lot of fun with it, and yeah, love to see you guys all out there.
So where do they go to find out about it again? What's the website?
It is realestategrowthsummit.ca.
Okay, so that'll be in the show notes, realestategrowthsummit.ca. And for the first 2 weeks, I'll be able to get that coupon code breakthrough. So that'll be in the show notes. Everybody go over and check it out.
And if you do have a problem, you can reach out to kypgolden@gmail.com. Send your email or your issues there, and we can definitely sort it out. If the coupon code's not working for whatever reason, we've had to walk a couple of people through. It's all fixed. Everything's working. It's just making sure that it works for you guys. So we're here to help any way we can. I'd love to see you out there, and the VIP tickets are also available. We'll have a coupon. We'll apply the discount code to the VIP tickets as well.
Oh, I was going to ask you, can they see a list of the charities on the website?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Right on. And anything else you got going on, Dylan, coming up?
Yeah, I'll share a couple other events I got coming up. September 18th, the Wright Club, which is out in the Burlington Holiday Inn, just a golf line in the QEW, very easily accessible. They're doing an event. They do monthly events. I think it's $40 or $50 to get in. That's actually where I've been able to take a lot of my massive action and found a lot of my power team from. And if you send an email to me, I can get you on the guest list, get your first ticket for free. So if you haven't actually attended the Right Club, send an email to me and I can get you connected to the right person to get you on the list for free. If you do show up on the day of, it's probably going to sell out. I think it's sell out at $275 or $300. I'm actually speaking on stage as well. We have a panel on. There's a panel going on, as well as I'm speaking about similar stuff that we just talked about. I'll go a little bit deeper, and my team will have a booth set up in the back for some off-market deals as well, since I know a lot of investors love off-market deals. So yeah, I'm going to be there September 18th, and then we're actually going to have a full day course with a power team at the same location, October 5th. So I have myself speaking. We have a mortgage broker, a lawyer, an accountant, and my architect is actually speaking as well at the same location. That's going to be a 9 to 5 event. And there's going to be tons of value. That's actually where I met the mortgage broker that I'm working with now that's been able to make all this happen. She's great on stage and a great presenter. So we can get your tickets for that as well. And that event will sell out as well. It'll probably be cut off at 150, just figuring out 146 or 150, whatever the number is. So love to have you guys all come out to that as well. Yeah, that's what I got coming up.
Okay. And where can they reach out to you to hear about those?
So you can reach out to me by email, which is Dylan, DYLAN, at elevationrealty.ca. Again, Dylan at elevationrealty.ca. Or you can reach out to us by phone or by text at 905-592-4220. Again, 905-592-4220. And obviously check us out on Instagram or Facebook as well.
All that stuff's going to be in the show notes, guys. And Dylan, thanks for sharing all this stuff. You've been like a true wealth of knowledge here. And honestly, I think like a big motivator for people that are going to listen to this and be able to go out and at least try, maybe not to the level that you've done until they get their feet wet, until they start to realize, hey, you can actually do it. That's the path that I believe all of us sort of take is go, geez, I never thought that this could be me, but now I can start to think bigger and really start to take off. So you know what? I loved all the information that you gave us. I know that there's a ton more. Maybe we will have Robbie on, and he can speak on the other half of the stuff that you were talking about today. So we're looking forward to that. And thanks, man. Thanks. It's been great.
That was awesome.
Yeah, my pleasure. I mean, like I said, that October 5th date, we brought the power team together. Wanted to make it as easy as possible for you guys to take action, whether that's, like I said, one house or 10 houses. So come on out to that event, get your tickets, and love to see you there.
Great. Sandy, how can people get in touch with you?
If they want to reach out to me, it's best at info@mckrealtynetwork.com or 289-389-6846.
And I'm doing property tours in different markets every other week. So we've always got something going on. They're educational tours. We go out, we discuss the regulations for second suites or student rentals or whatever it is that people are looking for in those different markets. Focus really on Oshawa and Peterborough areas. So there's a lot of value to be had in there. So if anyone's interested in learning about those tours or just talking to me about whatever they want to talk about, you can reach me at rob@mrbreakthrough.ca or 289-927-0464. I forgot my number there for a second.
All right. Awesome. I guess that's a wrap. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in.
No.
And any last notes there, Rob?
I just wanted to get Dylan's phrase again that he said. Leave us off with that.
Okay.
Which one was that?
The inspire others through success.
Oh, my why statement.
Yeah, let's hear that one more time.
To inspire others through success to think bigger and live their endless potential.
Love it. Okay. See you next time, everybody.
Thanks.